Okay, you wanted turbo R32 things. I want to do turbo R32 things. Let's do some turbo R32 things. Real quick, I bought this car at the beginning of 2020. I paid about $3,000 for it because it was a rusty, crusty R32 that needed some help. The car's been completely stripped down, rust fixed, a full, beautiful paint job from everything Euro. I rebuilt the engine, got a transmission with a limited slip, cleaned up and powder coated a ton of stuff, and now it's finally time to start putting this thing back together. Let's jump in. We got to get the wheels off and all the old subframes out before I can do anything else. Also, this car's really high up. See that? Caught it. It's stuck. These are the OEM Aristo R32 wheels, which is likely the wheels that are going to be going back on it. Wait till you see the back ones, though. They're most certainly not. Of course, this wheel is also a drive-by-feel wheel. What does it mean when I say drive-by-feel? I'll show you. That, drive-by-feel. Look at how mushed this wheel's probably cooked. Yeah, we're just going for it. These, on the other hand, are not factory Aristos. These are driver edition Mark III wheels from my white turbo VR6 GTI. You know, initially I was gonna reuse these axles. The more I think about it, the more I think getting some new axles from like Drive Shaft Shop or something might be a better play. A little more beefy. We should be 500 wheel horsepower in this thing. I'm only gonna be moderately careful with how I put everything back. We got a lot of new parts for this thing. This is actually a subframe from a Mark I TT, I believe, that I got so that we could have the car's proper subframe powder coated, which it's chilling over there. Before that one goes in, we got to get all new bushings put in it. So this will end up being an extra one, most likely. There's so like, I don't know how to accurately portray how much stuff we really have to do to this car. It's a ton. It's gonna be worth it. The engine's been rebuilt, the car's been repainted, we got a built transmission. Oh, we gotta put the limited slip in the back diff. It's big, big work. I just said, you know, I should probably put some safety glasses on. And I did that. And then the first bolt I hit, look at what happened. Looks like I'll be taking a shower tonight. I'm wondering if maybe I should just leave all that. The problem is getting it down is gonna be a B. So what I'm worried about, even with the trans jack, if I set the trans jack here, and unbolt everything, because of the way the trailing arms are, it's just gonna go whoop. So we're gonna make a little game time pivot here. I says to myself, I'll just take these out real quick. What's crazy is all this stuff has been out already. It's like I wanna save these trailing arms, but they're kinda yuck. I don't know if it's worth it. What do you guys think? Are these worth saving and rehabbing? I mean, on the one hand, they're complete trash. On the other hand, they're not available anymore, so, because this should really be the only rust we have to deal with. So, trailing arms, control arms, rear subframe, springs, none of this stuff is connected like the brakes and that or anything. We're in a good spot there, so just come on down. Tell Paul, same on down. I'm just letting these bolts fall where they may. I have a box somewhere with about $600 worth of suspension hardware that's gonna go back in this car because we pretty much got all new stuff. Excellent. My glove rip. Oh yeah. So you see this here, right? What that doesn't take into account is black car parts at my storage unit, up in the front garage where I used to shoot videos, in the shed, in the crawl space, and I got more stuff I gotta still get. So even if I didn't have new stuff, I wouldn't recommend reusing these crusty boys. Look at, I heated that one up and the like nylon lining melted and came out. One of the very first new parts that is gonna go in this car is these brake lines that I made sad. Kinda sad. We'll swap these little rubber damper grommet thingies over so that it doesn't rub the body of the car. So those will go on the new ones. And I have some new of these bracket things if we need them, but I'm gonna try and be real careful. Oh, I just bent the crap out of that line. I'm gonna be real careful, immediately bends the line. All right, so here's our old lines. And then we got our new lines. Look at these. Can you imagine how terrible this would be if the whole car wasn't taken apart? Just nice and gentle. So now we got those in. We'll leave the caps on until we're connected. We might have to massage that a little bit as we get the other parts in, but we're done. The gas tank is a big piece, and also everything else sort of lays on top of it. Even the parking brake cables, I don't remember if they go under the gas tank or over the gas tank. Here's how bad those fittings were. You know, like you can't even turn it. Yeah. We could have made a union here or something and just bent a new small piece, but these lines were only like 60 bucks at the time. Not when you can get a proper factory line. And sorry if anybody needed this, but it's officially, yeah, no mas. So our tank itself should be in good shape. Odds are we're gonna need to upgrade fuel pumps. We'll kind of handle that as we need to. I'm gonna clean the top of it off, take this fuel filter off because it's gonna get replaced anyway. We have the charcoal canister back here that needs to go on, so the gas tank. Ooh, gross. All right, well, I hadn't intended on taking all this stuff completely out. I mean, we would have needed new seals anyway. Look at these gaskets. They're all just rotted, but floats in gasoline, and then that tells where the fuel level's at. So I'm gonna leave all this kind of here and then just clean that out, because look at that, that's disgusting. And the reason we need to get all this out of here is because once we put gasoline in it, it's likely gonna break all that up, and we don't wanna clog an injector or clog a fuel filter or something, or the fuel pump, and nuke our high horsepower engine because we have yuck in the fuel. So before I put this back in the car, what I need to do is I need to figure out what I'm gonna do about these lines. So these are like siphon lines because our tank is a saddle and fuel needs to be able to get from both sides. Even though we only have these two holes to work in, at least I can move around the tank while it's out of the car. Once it's in the car, all this is covered. So you just got just those holes. Two solutions. One, we replace the pump unit as well as the transfer unit. That should come with all the lines that we need. Option two, there is a kit that's like 300 bucks and it comes with the line, this kind of fitting that's on the end right here, and all the tools to make a new line. Both good options. I'm leaning towards the tool side just because then I have the tool to make other stuff. There's a ton of other convoluted plastic tubing in this car. In the meantime, I really want to start sorting out all these turbo parts because that's going to be fun. So first up, so this is a ton of bolts, obviously. I know what a lot of it is, but not all of it. So here I'm just like laying out my bolts that I have, and then I'm just gonna take this whole tray and slide it underneath. Now, we make jokes all the time about Volkswagen and their just love for one-time use hardware. Because these are so bad, I have a feeling this is not all we're gonna need. I had all this stuff really nicely laid out like 4 years ago. That's okay, but what I did find, look at this. Our new gas tank straps. These were available when I got them from Volkswagen. They are no longer available. Forgetting this is like the bane of my existence. These are snap rings and shims for the edge of the transmission. So if you have like a whiny, noisy fourth gear, for example, like the red R32, these are the repair kits for that. I will say HPA did a great job of having everything nice, neat, and organized, and I borked that hard. On this car, whoever had it before me took a bunch of stuff apart and they broke these slides at the back, which is easy to do, but it's dumb to do what they did next because they just put a screw right through the center of it and bolted it in. And I looked on eBay for a replacement, $1,000. $1,000. I think I paid like 40 bucks for this used. Shout out to Adam from Spectrum Only for getting this for me. When I said earlier I had parts everywhere, I was not kidding. Boots, I got these from our boy Paulie D. The D stands for De Swebar upside down. Are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. It's time. Years since I've been in this car. Would you just look at it? I needed to do the heater box because the foam has all come out of it. I had also wanted to pull the interior because that should have made the paint job getting done easier. We need the headliner recovered. Might have to have our boy Christian come out again. The good thing is this kind of stuff is easy. This is just putting the car back together. But for now, let's get this heater box out. There is a bunch of this stuff that we're gonna go through and manage. So this is the master cylinder right here. That's gonna get replaced. I need to order a clutch line. What you probably don't really see is all the engine room harness on the body side is all tucked up in here. So we gotta get all that out, clean everything out to replace the factory stuff because the factory stuff was all nasty. OEM Plus is just like most of the cars that we do, right? We want it to, within reason anyway, look like it came from the factory that way. Obviously this one's not gonna have a big old turb ski from the factory, but no Odinger kit on this one for sure. There we go. Oh my goodness. Finally, I got it. Ta-da. You can see the holes in the door. I also got a new heater core and evaporator. I had new heater cores and evaporators, but we used it on the red R32. So our man Pauly D got us some new ones that we're gonna use for this car. Here's where we're at with our fuel pump delivery unit setup. I had our man Pauly D order me a new pump, a new level sender, and a new suction unit with a level sender as well. Now, I also ordered a repair kit to fix these broken lines, but you can see the sheathing of this wiring is just cracking apart. So what that does mean for us though is we can put the gas tank in because I can replace all this stuff while the tank is in the car. Delicious. Very excited. Yes! And that, my friends, is cool. It is time to start building some of our rear suspension. So this is the trailing arm. This hole bolts to the body. Our spring sits here and our wheel bearing and hub are all right here. But before we can install this, we got some bushings we have to press in. We have the big boy, which goes right here. Then we have two of these guys that go here and down here. So this is what it would look like from the factory. This is what we're putting in. Should be a pretty good suspension upgrade. And of course, new bearing, new hub. And if you'll notice, I have this set up in a very specific order. We're gonna press our bearing in, then we're gonna not forget the clip, then we're gonna push our hub in because, believe it or not, I've made that mistake more than once. When it comes to pressing in these bushings, I gotta tell you, this part was kind of a nightmare. Now, VW and Audi have special tools and jigs that are meant to press these bushings in. However, I don't have any of that, so you really gotta get creative. And what I used was primarily the same tool that I used to do press in wheel bearings. And even with that, it was kind of a nightmare. Sucks. BT dubs. All right. These fit super tight and I didn't want to tear anything up or damage anything. The bushings were really expensive, so I didn't want to damage any of it. But I ended up using a combination of the wheel bearing press tool and making this special tool right here. This is my socket to do control arm bushings on Mark IVs. Now I did grind this socket down quite a bit more to be able to press the bushing in into the trailing arm. If you end up doing these, the big key is really just take your time. I also had those in the freezer for quite some time. That helped a little bit, but it was still kind of a pain in the butt. So if you're doing those, just be ready. That part of the job was not super fun. This is how it's supposed to be. Nice and easy. You can really feel when you get the bearing seated all the way. Struggle, struggle, oh, that's tight. That's when you stop. Our next step is our new hub, right? What you have to make sure you do if you're doing this is you have to support the back side of the bearing. Otherwise, you're just gonna drive the back of the bearing apart, and then you just go to town just like you did on the bearing. You can use power tools, it's fine. The only problem I have with it is one, things get hot really fast, and as they get hot, they expand, and it can actually make it harder to press it in. Two, when you're sending it with power tools, you lose any feel, like touch feel that you would have otherwise, and I don't like that, so. And it makes you wonder, like, how do they do these things at the factory? Well, the piece gets set in a jig, but a lot of times it's a hydraulic press that'll smash it in. Unfortunately, here in the field, you don't get any of that. But look at this. Freshy, freshy, freshy. Even though they, what is it called? Sandblast, and it's still a Michigan car on the inside. Now, this isn't the one that came out of the car, but the one that did come out of the car basically look like that. You may remember I had to melt this piece to get it off. Michigan cars for the win, I guess. Doing the other trailing arm was pretty much the same thing as the first side that I did, although it did seem to go quite a bit smoother, probably because I had already made the tool and I had a good idea of how to easily press those bushings in, or maybe not easily, but easier than I did on the first go round. But I also want to give you a really important tip for cleaning where these bushings are going to live. You want to make sure any dirt, any debris, any rust, oxidation, whatever is cleaned out of there. That way you don't end up dragging dirt through into the new bushing. And this becomes really important if you're doing something like installing polyurethane, which you'll see in a second, because that can ruin a brand new bushing. Or if you're doing something like a wheel bearing, the same thing applies. Also, make sure you follow the repair manuals. Some places call for lubricant, some don't. Some probably have some special space age polymer that you're supposed to use. Just make sure you follow the repair manual whenever you can. Time for the rear subframe. So our arms bolt up to this piece, and then they go out and bolt to those pieces that we just built. So we're gonna put some bushings in. These legit have been in my freezer for years. We have 8 of them. They're solid bushings, which I've never ran in an R32. So I'm curious to see how like the noise, vibration, harshness situation is with these things. So these bushings are from usually Sideways Rally. They have a notch in them. That notch goes this way, which is towards the back of the vehicle. Also, there are 2 threaded holes in this subframe. I'm gonna run a thread chaser through it and clean that up. These are gonna go here and here. They're poly. I've had mixed luck with this brand and their bushings, especially the purple ones. So hopefully these are okay. All right, it's time. I'm so hyped. This subframe goes right here, just like that. And if I manage, I can hold it, because oh geez, we got new hardware. All I'm gonna do for right now is I'm just gonna start the bolts, because this is cool. Look at how great this looks. Oh, I'm so excited. We'll come back and we'll torque everything. These probably can just straight torque down. Only 9,984 more parts to go, and we'll be good. We're gonna put a limited slip in the rear diff, and that rear diff goes right here. Also, before we get crazy, I gotta see something. There's no value in what I'm actually doing, but how cool is that gonna look? A part no one will ever see, but it's gonna be cool as hell. A perfect example of why I didn't tighten these down. I can't get this bolt in here with this bolt installed, so we're gonna have to take this out to bolt this up. Have a feeling we're gonna be down and up and down and up and in and out a whole bunch of times. Our diff is now limited slip setup. Super easy installation, just not a very cheap part to do. We're going to put the diff in the subframe, and then I think I'm gonna put the whole assembly in the car, which means I'll have to go to the gym one more time because it's really heavy. That was the joke. So we have our purple bracket that's gonna go on. This goes to the back. Also a bunch of new hardware. It's so dumb expensive that it makes me fussy. I took 2 old bolts of the same thread pitch as the subframe bolts for the back. I cut the heads off and I cut a little notch on them. So I'll screw one in the back left, one in the right front like this, and then we can just lower the car down, give it a little wiggle jiggle, and hopefully it lines right up. Okay, I was gonna do something about this as I saw it start to pick up. But that's awesome. Look at it, it's dangling by just that little bit of vacuum line. I don't want it to fall and break, so I'm gonna take it down, but I figured I'd leave that in. I know it's like just a minor step with 1.5 million more to go, but this is a pretty exciting moment for me. Here's what we got. Adjustable control arms. So these are from Grooven Parts. To get a baseline for how long these need to be, we're gonna use a factory one, and we're just gonna get it close. Look, my other 2 R32s are both on H&R springs, so we'll probably do, I don't know. We got a ways to go. But what I'll do with these is I will take these and I'll stand them up. When it's out of the car, it's adjustable independently on both sides. So the side with the joint, as well as the side with the U, both move. But what we don't want to do is get one of them all the way out and one of them all the way in. So what I'll do is I'll run them both in and then turn the shaft like this And that's gonna get it pretty close. If it's a thread or two off, honestly, it's not a big deal, don't sweat it. The reason I went with these, it's got a nice heim joint on the end. With the rubber bushing, you get a lot of weird, unpredictable flex, but these kind of joints, I think, are a little bit more predictable and should allow for better overall rear articulation of our suspension. It's also why I went with a similar joint for the trailing arms as well. On your R32, rear control arms, nuts go to the back. Next, we gotta get our trailing arm, which is the piece that goes from here on the body and the shock absorber bolts to it. What we need to do is torque this part right here down. If you're using stock bushings, there is a measurement that you need to take right here and make sure that you get this at the proper distance. Because we have these upgraded bushing bearing pieces, we don't really need to worry about it, because once I tighten this down, this is gonna fully articulate anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Now, you'll notice I have no wheel bearing, I have no wheel hub. I kind of, probably maybe, but maybe not messed up on the other side. What I didn't put on is the dust shield that goes on here. That needs to go on before the hub goes on. So odds are that's not gonna be a problem. The challenge is if I put a dust shield on it, I'll have to then cut it off or whatever to get it out. Once I figure out exactly what the brake setup is gonna be, I'll decide on the dust shield, I'll do this bearing, I'll do this hub. Worst case scenario, may end up costing me another wheel bearing, which is only like 30 bucks. And let me be real, 30 bucks at this point in time, whatever. Before we move up to the front, let's recap a little bit what we did back here. The first thing we did was install our new rear brake lines because I cooked these fittings when they were coming out. It was all crusty, corroded, and nasty. We have our tank installed with the new straps. All that gross fuel residue really that was in there is all cleaned out. I do have new fuel pumps, but I'm not gonna put those in yet, just in case we have to make some kind of modification. For our whole back suspension, everything minus springs and shock absorbers is installed. We have in our diff housing our limited slip that we installed, our cool powder coated bracket. This is the evap canister right up here, so that's in and in place. Now, I don't have the suspension in because I don't actually have a suspension yet. However, there is something that is going to be the absolute coolest thing, in my opinion anyway, that we're gonna do with the suspension, but I don't think I can tell you exactly what that is because in the time-space continuum, it has not happened yet. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna travel up to the front of the car. I'm gonna get this stuff out of the way because we have some new stuff. So I'll show you some of the new stuff versus the old stuff side by side, and that'll give me an opportunity to clean up this power steering rack. Maybe we'll take it to the dry ice blasting place. If you'll notice when I was trying to take this axle nut off, the hub was just spinning. We're gonna hold it with the pry bar. Then we're gonna cut this zip tie that's been on here for Lord knows how long, and this decrepit bungee cord. I'm just gonna cut that too. Now we have our axle. You can see our boots messed up, not a big deal. I might actually, rather than reusing these, take these to Drive Shaft Shop, have them make us some little bit more horsepower friendly axles. TBD at this point, but that's for sure on the calendar. But I wanna show you guys something. Come look at this, little BTS. That's short for behind the scenes. Look at how many axles are just chilling right here. What is that, 4 or 5 axles? This is all Lupo stuff. A bunch of joints down at the bottom. So I'm worried if I don't label it, it's gonna be like, what was this for again? So I'm just gonna label it real quick. It'll just take a second. On this particular car and other VWs, I don't know all of them off the top of my head. So this tie rod goes up from the bottom. And if you look right here, this is actually a sleeve on the tie rod end. It actually lives here in the hub or in the knuckle. So if you take this off and it looks like this, it's not gonna seal because the tie rod is tapered and the sleeve is tapered. So make sure you get this off of the tie rod end before you put a new tie rod end on it. It's so heavy. Okay, here we go. Now, if you remember, there's spider webs. If you remember when I first got this car, the main problem that it had is the bearing underneath this strut tower bushing came apart in pieces. And I think that was the main reason why the previous owner just decided to part ways with it, because the places he was taking it, they weren't able to find that. What's cool is none of this is going back on the car. Here's the new hotness. So I got these fully built hubs from Brian at One Love a while back. you can see how there's a sleeve in there. That's the sleeve I was talking about that stuck to the tie rod end. So this is a new ball joint, new hub, new bearing, new dust shield, new hardware, all for this car. What I'll end up doing is I'll keep these pieces and we'll get them powder coated because I'm sure at some point I'll need something in here for a future R32 project. When it comes to what suspension I'm going to run, up until very recently, I hadn't made up my mind. This setup right here, I absolutely love. I run it on my red car, I run it on my blue R32. However, an opportunity has presented itself that is almost unbelievable, right? So I do know what suspension we're running. The suspension that we do might actually end up being the absolute coolest part of this entire project. Oh, geez. Did you get that? Holy cow. Thought I was gonna wear that as a freaking hat. Left front axle, same deal. This one actually is more likely to need to be for our high horsepower engine because I believe this is hollow. Dang it. So normally you can hold the tie rod and just put pressure on it, and that'll allow you to spin the nut off. If that doesn't work, there is an Allen hole in the tie rod that you can counter hold to take that nut off, which it also looks like this is full of anti-seize. Where's Tin Man Paul when you need him to do your anti-seize work? On a plus note, we won't need our ball joint press. Really, the big takeaway for this is just pay attention to it. Just look at it, go, oh yeah, I got the sleeve in the knuckle, or oh yeah, it's on the tie rod, I gotta remove it and get it off of there. Even if it's not this car, it's worth a split second of look just to make sure you don't end up scrapping that piece, because you're gonna be real unhappy if you do that. That bearing's cooked underneath here too. Somebody did strut bushings and didn't do the bearing. Is that rolling away? The wheel's locked. That's what you get when you buy crusty tables from Vivor. Even though it was only like 70 bucks, I got what I paid for, I suppose. So the final piece of this front suspension puzzle is I'm gonna take the steering rack out. That way we can get it cleaned up, refreshed. I have new tie rods, tie rod ends, boots and all that. So I just gotta get the steering column bolt off. The whole interior is out of this car too. So the exterior has been gutted, the interior has been gutted. Look at this stuff's been on here so long. It tried to kill me. Ah! But look at how crusty this all is. I don't want to put that back on the car. So we can use AN fittings here. I just need to make sure I get the right deal and then it'll be fine. But for right now, this whole doodad is just gonna get put away. Notice how wiggly these are. That's because our inner tie rod ball joint is worn out. Watch this, now we get a really cool shot. Floating core support. The major issues with this thing, we had a bolt that broke here. We have a bolt seized up in a riv nut. This bracket is all gross, which we could clean that up. That's not a big deal. Some of these were really unhappy. About as rusty crusty as they get. So that's our old one. Check out this new one. There is a company that repops these stickers. So it's oem-carsticker.com if you want to get some new freshy labels. So this is the brake booster, which is this piece, master cylinder, which is this piece, reservoir, which we maybe want to get a new one of those, and the main lines. These two lines go to the ABS. And I had taken this out all at once, and then I set it on the shelf. Then one day I came out to the shop and found this on the floor with the back piece completely broken off. So I had the honor, the pleasure, if you will, of buying a new brake booster. All this part is inside of the car, and then I'll have to transfer over all this outside-y type things. So much of this engine is gonna look like the engine bay, and the car altogether, right, is gonna look awesome. I'm trying really hard to manage not putting anything gross in, but also not just being like, I'm gonna buy this, and money, where's our money gun? Just like blasting my own face with the money gun. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Okay, we got a lot of stuff done in this first video. My next step though is going to be dealing, it's all crammed in there so well, dealing with all of this, because when we sent it to paint, I just crammed all this stuff in the firewall. But as you can see, we have wires after wires after wires after cables. A lot of it looks real grubby, and I don't want to go back with all this grubby. We need to start getting it where it goes, and I want to do that before we start filling in all this stuff. I have a cover that's going to cover a lot of this. It's going to look really, really nice. Also, there's sound deadening back in here, and I really want to get some of that back just so the car's still nice, neat, and comfortable. A lot of things left, but we are on our way. And then once things actually are primed to go back together, the reassembly should go somewhat quick, and then it'll hit a stall point, and I'll start finding all the things that I'm missing, because this car's been apart for 5 years. Now we're gonna do one of my favorite things, make all of this look real fresh, but you have to wait till the next video for that. Sorry.